Hello, everyone. This is Whitney Will from Star Hearth Astrology. And today I'm going to be talking about the Gemini full moon that happens on Saturday, December 18th. So in thinking about this full moon, I think that it's important for us to take a step back and, right, even though we have a new moon and a full moon every month that kind of punctuate the month, to kind of zoom out, because we have been through a lot of pretty difficult lunations. And I try to be honest about that, right? Not every new moon and full moon is going to be the biggest thing that ever happened. On none of them are you going to miss the boat for your destiny if you don't take advantage of the energies or whatever. Right? We are in the river of life, and things come and go, and eventually we realize that we don't have to be the center of things in order to participate with them in meaningful ways, right? It's not necessarily the amplitude of the experience, but eventually it becomes, right, this sense of remaining true to ourselves regardless of what's going on around us, and in this way having a kind of faith that there is a purpose and integrity to our individual life, and kind of the circumstances that gather and pool around it and inside of it and change are not really working against us, but first facilitating our journey inwards. So this full moon, feels like kind of the gift of laughter and humor. And the way, Tom Robbins talks about play more than piety or vigilance or all the ways that we deeply take ourselves seriously, that play is the best way for humans to transcend evil. That a sense of humor, properly developed, is far superior than any religion so far devised. And I think what he means is that spiritual buoyancy facilitated by a sense of humor to kind of lift us out of this morass of wallowing and taking our immediate circumstances too seriously allows us this kind of inner equilibrium and some good laughs at the absurdity of the whole project, right? And I think, I am a Saturnian being. I have Saturn very strongly placed. I am melancholic. Take on and try to swallow kind of the problems of the world whole. And so it's an important thing for me in my practice to kind of come back to this sense, because I do have a tendency to take things too seriously. But to kind of use humor to break the spell of the direness of them. And so I kind of see this full moon as kind of that gift of a really good joke in the middle of an intense argument or an intense conversation. We have that conversation happening in the background with Venus stationing retrograde very, very close to Pluto. Her two exact conjunctions were December 11th, and then on Christmas Day, we'll have another one. But she's not getting very far from Pluto these days. And so we are kind of still in this Plutonian intensity. and right, with this very tender part of ourselves, with the Venusian part that is this kind of pull of magnetism towards what we really value, what we desire, our attachments. And they are with Pluto, which is really putting pressure on them. So there's this intense conversation. And then, right, in the peak of this intense conversation, some Gemini mischief comes along and like someone farts in the middle of it. And for a moment, we're standing in the contrast of how dark and intense some things can feel, and then right, how normal they are, how each of our feelings about our particular situation has been felt by others before, how our lives, right, while they are a unique expression, they are just these tiny little pinpricks of light in the whole. And right, that gift that laughter gives us to kind of step outside of ourselves and just kind of laugh at the enormity of the whole project, laugh at the seriousness with which we take it, and remember, right, that almost nothing is actually life and death. So this moon, the reason why it can offer that is because it is in the mutable signs. We've got, so the cardinal signs are heating up. The fixed signs have just been nailed in 2021, and in some ways get hit just as hard in 2022. But the mutable signs are really easing off with the eclipses leaving the mutable signs. We don't really have a ton going on there. The mutable signs are going to be our kind of safety and our solace in the coming year. And this full moon also marks the close of eclipse season. So we have eclipse season, which began on November 19th. Then we had our second eclipse on December 4th. And this full moon is our first uneclipsed lunation. So that's the end of eclipse season. It is also the first uneclipsed Gemini full moon in 2 years. So we're kind of back to this kind of trickster Gemini shenanigan energy, right? Which is the counter to Sag. We have the sun in Sagittarius making meaning and really being filled with the fire of its beliefs. And then, right, from out of nowhere, the trickster comes and kind of foils that, but in a way that, that allows us to not get too wrapped up in our story. I love that this full moon is happening a week before Christmas. I think with COVID and with this kind of sensitivity to gathering, right, that makes the holidays, which for many of us are the seasons of gathering together, a tricky place and kind of fills connection with anxiety. And I think the kind of astrological story of that is that we've had Jupiter, the friendship, the gatherer, the ruler of Sagittarius season, in Saturn signs for the last 2 years. And so really kind of in this space of a more isolated quality. Now Jupiter's still in Aquarius and will be for another couple weeks until Jupiter goes into Pisces. But Jupiter is in a trine to this full moon. So we have Jupiter in Aquarius, trining a full moon in Gemini. And I think that's bringing a little bit more of this kind of collection and collaboration spirit to this full moon. So it's a great time for a holiday party, for a holiday gathering. It doesn't fix everything in the same way that having a moment of laughter in the middle of an intense conversation doesn't fix everything, but it is a little bit of a correction. It does kind of ground us in the simple pleasures, right? And it invites us to take a step back from kind of peering into the abyss. And to really enjoy the friends and the food and the blessings that we have now. And in true full moon spirit, to have a celebration of that. So I hope you go gently and joyfully into this full moon. Treat it as a feast. It's not going to fix everything, but honor the gifts that play and humor have to offer before we head into a very tricky holiday season. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe if this is valuable to you. If it's not, let me know how I can do better. Okay. Happy full moon.